God does a lot of things that are strange to our limited perspective. But come to earth as a baby, if God had come as a fully grown man, we'd probably understand that a little better. Or if he had come as an angel, that would probably meet our expectation a little better. But to come as a baby, where he had to depend solely on someone else to take care of him, he couldn't feed himself, he couldn't walk, he couldn't control his own bladder. But that's the way God chose to come into the world. The same way you and I, through birth. Birth is, even though it's a beautiful thing, sometimes it's a little, or most of the time, or all the time, I guess I should say, it's a little messy, it's a little bloody, it's a little yucky. But that's the way God chose to come into the world. He could have chosen any way he wanted. He could have come in some kind of majestic way, but he chose the ordinary way. And worse than that, he chose the peasant's way. He could have chosen a major city with doctors and nurses and sterilized equipment, but instead he chose a barn with nothing but a carpenter's rough, calloused hands to usher him into the world. There were more animals than people looking on. It doesn't make much sense to us, does it? The God of the universe humbling himself in such a way, emptying himself of so much for so little in return. But the Bible leads us to believe that is exactly the way God wanted it. This is our God. This tiny baby with fish for hands and squinting eyes, depending on and trusting two newlyweds for his survival. He risked everything in order to rescue the people who were had never been able to keep their promises to him. The storyline just doesn't make much sense, does it? But I want you to go back to a moment in your life, maybe where you were at the most comfortable place that you've ever been. Remember the warm sun or the soothing sounds, the aroma of fresh baked bread or roasting meat over an open fire. The knowledge that everything is under control and there's nothing to worry about. You're weighted on hand and foot. People are telling you how wonderful you are. I want us to label that place as A. Now, have you ever been to a working dairy farm? Remember those smells and those sights? You have to watch your every step. You might want to wear gloves before you touch anything. Have you ever seen a feeding trough? The edges of them tend to be smooth because of all of the cow tongues that have lapped up every kernel of corn and every drop of grain that was poured into them. And did I mention that cows often do their business standing up while they're eating? I'm trying to be delicate here. But I want you to label that place as B. In one moment, Jesus went from the most comfortable and beautiful place that ever was, or ever will be, or will ever exist, to one of the grossest, germiest places that you can ever imagine. Jesus went from A to B in a heartbeat. When Jesus was born, there weren't any nurses or doctors or sterilized equipment, no medicine, no clean linen or machines that go ping to assure us that everything is okay. There were just two people in a barn amongst flies and barnyard animals and manure. When God was born, they wrapped him in strips of cloth and laid him in a feed trough. The author of life, the King of Kings, the Prince of Peace, lying there among the spittle and the leftover feed. My friend, that's the incarnation. That's grace. Before he spoke a word, he built a bridge. He came from heaven to earth to make a way for us to get from earth to heaven. And that's what I mean when I say that Jesus built a bridge. He brought us grace. And without grace, there's no salvation. Without grace, there's no hope. Without grace, there's nothing beyond the grave except misery and punishment and the full extent of our human depravity without restraint in one unending, torturous eternity. And that's where we were headed. And that's where we would still be headed if it weren't for Jesus and the grace that he provides. He built a bridge to make a way back for us to return to our Heavenly Father. And after he built that bridge and demonstrated his ability to return home, he turned on a light. After he came in humility, awkwardly learning to walk and talk and navigate life in our world, he asked us to humble ourselves and awkwardly learning to walk and talk and navigate life in his world. And that's the length of which he was willing to go for our sakes. And my question to you today is, how far are you willing to go for his sake and the benefit of others? Have a blessed day. I love you. God bless.